Alumni Podcast with Tek Prem.
It was exactly 40 years ago when I started my pro coaching career across the street at Veterans Stadium. You know, I was a big Philly fan growing up in all sports. So it was a thrill for me to go to work every day at Veterans Stadium 40 years ago because I used to go to games there all the time. And now it's a good thrill to come back 40 years later and hopefully finish it out here.
It's the Vet Alumni Podcast. I'm Tek. He's Prem. It's another Saturday edition.
Yeah, that's a great clip, by the way.
That's a great clip.
I mean, how could we not utilize that from Vic?
The voice of defensive coordinator Vic Fangio, who spoke for the first time this week talking about his days where it all started at the Vet.
Hey, look, we can relate.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, by name, we can relate. I'm excited to see what Vic does with so much talent now, man.
I felt good. You know what? I felt good after I watched the media appearance.
Me too.
And I listened. I don't know what else to say. I trust the guy.
I trust him. Look, you had said this to me off air. He reminds you of Jim Johnson a little bit. His demeanor.
Yeah,
his demeanor. I see it.
Old school.
Rocking the camo birds hat.
Gonna make guys compete.
Yeah, and that's what you want.
That's what you want.
I don't care about what these guys think they are. I don't care about the pride of what they've been told their whole life by their yes men. What I care about is performance. And we're going to talk to Chris Franklin about what he's seen from the rookies so far, too.
Yes. Eagles beat reporter Chris Franklin from NJ.com. I'm looking forward to that. And we're also going to recap what exactly the Eagles did in the draft a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
When we wrapped our draft show, when we last left you, they had just drafted Will Shipley from Clemson, the running back.
Which we were excited about.
And we were pretty convinced at that point that drafting Jeremiah Trotter Jr. wasn't going to happen, but they did it.
When guys fall, Howie scoops them up.
And a lot of insiders said that the plan all along going into the draft was to make that happen one way or another.
Yeah, well, it makes sense. You know, just the emotional connection. When guys feel like it's their destiny to be doing something,
it's
a
legacy.
whole different. I mean, it is legacy. You got pictures of Trot on the field in 2005 after they knocked off Vic and the Falcons to get to Super Bowl 39.
Yeah.
Holden Jr.
And Laurie, the owner of the team, has a great relationship with Trotter and his wife.
Yeah, what a great clip.
It's a tremendous
of that phone
clip.
call. You
love
can feel
that
the
phone call.
emotion.
Of course.
Laurie really is a good dude.
And he's a good owner, too. He's involved in and look, I know it's not like a Jerry Jones thing, right? I know that pisses people off. But, like, Laurie's involved in knowing about the prospects that are in the draft that the Eagles are looking at.
Yeah.
He meets with them all just like the GM. Not a lot of owners do this. He does it.
Yeah.
He wants to meet with all the prospects. He wants to get to know, watch the film, get to know everything about them, and he gets wrapped up in wanting certain guys.
And you know what that does, too? It builds rapport where when they come up for re-signing, that's why they're able to retain these guys, at least with a second contract, when they should be retained.
And it also allows them with these relationships, because everyone's like, well, it's just business and football's football. It's like, I get that, but the way Howie and Jeffrey kind of nurture relationships, and I'm not saying everything has been perfect. It has not.
No, sure. Look, it's human nature.
They collapsed last year, and they didn't care one iota about the defense, and it showed at the end of the year.
Yeah.
But they do nurture relationships in order to be doing these contracts in a certain way where it's like, look, we'll upload you this in the beginning, and then we'll backload you this.
Like A.J. Brown's contract.
Right.
And you know what that does, too? It's a relationship business. Even though football's a business, it's literally every industry. I don't care what you do. It's a relationship business.
Absolutely.
And when you have a reputation, as you build relationships properly, and you show guys that you value them, even personally in some cases, that does have a flip side where you might keep guys a little too long. We've seen that.
We've definitely seen that.
But you know what? The plus side of that outweighs that.
And we're hoping that maybe, and I get it, look, Fletcher Cox, Jason Kelsey, they're gone. But
Kelsey's in the building every day.
True. But they retired. They retired.
Yeah.
Hassan Reddick, they actually moved away from. They moved him, and fans were upset. I mean, I was a little perturbed about it, but maybe, and I'm just benefit of the doubt here.
Sure.
Maybe they're doing one of those things like you just said where, they keep guys a little too long. Maybe they're getting rid of them ahead. Maybe they're ahead of the curve on him dropping off.
With Bradbury, they better be.
Look, I don't know what the plan is.
The draft tells you that. The draft tells you that.
That'll be a question for Chris Franklin on what's the plan for Bradbury. Who is going to be the corners?
Because June 1st is a big date.
It is.
In that realm.
Because they're predicted by June 2nd. Bradbury's gone. We'll see.
Well, it would make sense. I mean, we will see. And I don't know that would see what that requires is investing a little bit of blind faith in guys that have not performed at the highest level yet.
That's true.
But I mean, the pedigree is there. I'm talking about those corners, Quinyon and Cooper.
Oh, yeah.
The pedigree is there, and they look the part.
They look the part. I'm not so worried about Quinyon Mitchell. It's everybody else. I mean, I don't really.
Right.
I don't know. Right. I look at the weakness of this team or this defense, and I see the weakness being the linebackers, and that's even on the edge. I mean, I don't know about Nolan Smith. I don't know about Nakobe Dean. I don't know about Bryce Huff even because they asked Vic about Bryce Huff, and his answer was kind of like, well, he's never been a full-time player.
Right. Well, that's a real key is where is the breath control going to be at when he's doubling his snaps?
Right.
Where's the burst going to be, the explosion when he's in uncharted territories? And what my answer to that would be is maybe he doesn't have to be in uncharted territories. Maybe he truly is going to still be on the field just a little bit more than he was because of the depth that they think they have.
Or maybe they'll use him in a similar way.
Yeah, well, right.
Which you're paying him a lot of money just to rotate him.
That's the discrepancy there is, you really want to rotate a guy, you're paying really the amount of money that Reddick wanted.
True.
It's pretty to wrap your mind about. It's close. But to wrap your mind around that, you got to think.
Reddick still hasn't gotten a deal in New York.
That whole scenario is completely confusing.
It is. I'm confused.
There's more behind the scenes we don't know. I think that Reddick maybe, and this is my personal hypothesis. I don't really have much to back this up, but my personal hypothesis on that, Tech, is that behind closed doors, Reddick was maybe one of the more upset about their terrible finish and was vocalizing maybe a bit more than they like.
Could have been.
But the story presented could be different.
Maybe Vic Fangio didn't think he was an every down player
That's
either.
a part of it, too.
Maybe he isn't. We don't know.
His production seriously tails off in the second half of the season, Reddick.
Well, because they asked Vic straight up, are you planning on dropping your linebackers into coverage? And he said, yeah, there's going to be times I drop them into coverage.
It depends on the offense you're playing.
And maybe he looked at Hassan Reddick as a guy that, is ineffective dropping in coverage. He needs a little more versatility.
Yeah, but you need to rush with 4 consistently to do that.
You got to be.
You got to rush with 3, right?
And I don't know I don't know how strong that line's going to be this year. We'll see.
Well, Jordan Davis is the true wild card. You got a guy that came in a first-round pick.
He needs to be able to perform.
He does.
Up to the level that he was drafted at.
He's got to be able to take up 2 dudes.
It's true. We'll go around the bases as well and talk some Phils as they remain the hottest team in baseball.
Steaming hot.
But we start with the recap of the Eagles draft. First round, we mentioned it. Everybody's talked about it. The draft board fell miraculously their way. They take Quinyon Mitchell at 22, who's not penciled in as a starter. He's written in ink as a starter right now.
He has to be. The speed, the breakaway speed, the closing speed, and just the football IQ, the mental football IQ, in my opinion, with him, is going to negate the whole rookie thing.
Yeah, I can't wait to ask Chris Franklin, who covers this team, if it's likely that Bradbury's as good as gone. It feels like he is, but we don't know.
You really don't know. Because also on the flip side, to play devil's advocate here, you like to have experience depth.
Yeah, just that contract is like
depth. That's not a depth of contract.
Yeah,
I agree. They get into these situations. Every team has these scenarios. Luckily, the only glaring one now is Bradbury for the Birds.
Right now, it's the biggest question mark. It's the one circled spot on.
And that's in ink as well.
It's in ink as well. In the second round, they traded up 10 spots to number 40, and they selected Cooper DeJean.
Love the pick.
Just a first round value that they got in the second round, and if you watch the draft video, everybody was ecstatic.
I know.
Lori was sort of pressing Howie on it.
Howie did some calculus to get that, too. You saw the video behind the scenes video, which is just great content.
They took a risk. They weren't able to move up. Washington moved ahead, and they took something else, and there was a celebration.
They even thought he was gone. Because
they thought he was gone.
Right in 39th pick, Howie's like, well, we tried.
This is it.
We tried.
And then when they picked somebody else,
it was a celebration. I love it, man.
It erupted, and they knew that they were going to get their guy.
Inside the war room.
That's actually a great video. I'm glad they did that.
Me
it was
too.
great to see that.
Me too.
In the third round, number 94, they picked Vic Fangio's favorite player in the draft. Kind of a head-scratcher for the rest of us. But
True.
Look, edge rusher, Jalix Hunt, he shined at the Senior Bowl. And that's why that they selected him.
That's
here.
Huff Insurance to me. I read that as Huff Insurance. Maybe not this year. He's going to be a special team stud this year.
Could be.
But I think that's Bryce Huff Insurance. If this doesn't work out, you got a guy with high upside that maybe you reached a little bit for. But you know what?
He was also Mel Kiper's favorite for what it's worth. And I know that really doesn't mean much.
Mel's a coin flip for me on evaluation.
Yes.
And that's fair just because he's more of a personality.
But this was his favorite player in the draft.
Interesting. That's from a small school.
They brought him on ESPN to talk about the first two picks, the corners, and he said, "Well, before I talk about the corners, I got to mention my favorite player in the draft, Jalix Hunt." And they were
with his perfect hair, with Mel's perfect hair,
statuesque. Yeah. It's unbelievable. In the fourth round at number 127, they selected Will Shipley. That's where we left you.
Good value.
Running back out of Clemson. He'll take Boston Scott's place.
Yep.
Third running back at this point.
Way cheaper.
Yeah, and he might actually be better. He's actually kind of a Gainwell-ish kind of guy.
That tape looks good. I mean, and he's playing in a very, very prestigious conference. I mean, he has power, speed, and vision. I think he has a higher pedigree than Gainwell does. But Gainwell, with the experience, will be given the benefit of the doubt in that 2 spot.
Absolutely. In the fifth round, now here's a value pick at number 152, a great value pick. They picked Anais Smith, wide receiver, Texas A&M.
There's your new kick returner.
Yeah, he's fast. He can play the slot. He's also a returner. He's gonna push Covey maybe out.
Well, he probably should. As much as we love Covey as just a guy that we've grown to like as like the underdog type, almost like the T.J. McConnell of the Eagles.
Right.
Is how I look at Covey. Covey. I think that Anais Smith has a real return value. Now, I know the kickoff return thing has changed, but on punt returns, that guy, looking at some of his tape from A&M, he takes punts to the house.
Yeah.
And he sheds tackles while doing it.
I mean, we'll see. He also could end up being the third receiver, the slot receiver. I mean, I know it's probably not right away.
Right.
But
because you got Campbell and Parker in the mix.
Yeah,
I know you're not excited about those guys.
Parker is just a guy, and Paris. Yeah, these guys don't excite me at all.
I hear you.
I'm
Still
more
a Big
excited
Ten.
about Anais Smith.
Ohio State's still a Big Ten first rounder, I think. Right, Paris Campbell.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, these guys have some injuries. Though.
Yeah, that's the case. That's the key.
We'll see. We'll see.
True.
And look, just 3 picks later in the fifth, they trade up to number 155 and finally select Jeremiah Trotter Jr. The legacy lives on.
It does.
He's undersized.
Happy for the kid.
Lacks some speed, but what he lacks in size and speed, he makes up for in football IQ.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, that whole destiny thing, man, that plays a role. He's going to be on that field, and that adrenaline's going to be pumping a little more because he has wings on his helmet.
Yeah.
And that's just the truth.
I agree. Now, in what could be the biggest value pick of the entire draft, okay? I don't want to oversell it here, but they used their 5th round compensatory pick, number 172, to select Trevor Keegan, guard from the national champion Michigan Wolverines.
This was a captain on that team, and
Yeah.
this is a guy that probably could have been taken 50 picks earlier.
I mean, he could become a starter sooner than you think.
Yeah, they're smart, and Stoutland knows what he's doing. Anytime they take a lineman from the 5th to the 7th round or the 4th to the 7th round, I just trust that Stoutland knows he's getting value. And then I know you're going to get to the other kid that they took as well, who I'm excited about. The other lineman, yeah.
But the final 2 picks, 6th round, 185, they take Johnny Wilson, wide receiver out of Florida State.
Why not?
Why not?
Also, good tape, good value. I mean, the kid might not even make the team, but he sounds like a practice squatter to me.
Drops a lot of balls. We'll see.
Yeah, true.
Kind of reminds me of a poor man's Mike Evans.
That's fair.
Finally, 6th round, number 190, they select Dylan McMahon, guard center, North Carolina State.
Yeah, that's the kid that has the same exact specs as Kelsey coming out. In terms of size, reach, all the measurables.
Big kid.
Yeah, all the measurables. He's about the same size as Kelsey, though.
So, look, they came into the draft with 8 picks. Left with 9 players and 3 mid-round picks next year. Look, overall, a great draft
I agree.
for Howie Roseman.
I agree. Give it an A-.
We'll see how it pans out, but tremendous value.
No question. Look, we're excited about football. How could you not be when you look at the fact that Jalen now, Hurts that is, not Jalix.
Right.
Jalen Hurts has a lot to prove.
Or Jalen Carter.
Or Jalen Carter. Both of them, though. Both Jalens have a lot to prove, but Jalen Hurts more than anybody, because if this guy is just a touch quicker on decisions and Kellen Moore always has an out for you, then you're looking at a team that's probably going to return to the performance we saw 2 years ago, and that's what we're all hoping. Even if Hurts is 85% of 2022, this team goes back to an NFC title game. And then who knows, but that's my take.
I agree. I see the red light blinking. Let's hit the vet line right away.
Yes, sir.
Now that we're talking birds, we might as well stay on this subject. We'll hit the vet line with Eagles beat reporter Chris Franklin from NJ.com next.
Vet Alumni. And now, it's the Vet Line.
Why don't you answer your phone?
Joined now on the vet line by Chris Franklin, Eagles beat writer for NewJersey.com. Chris, what's going on?
Nothing much, man. Nothing much. Thank you guys for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's
Yes,
our
sir.
pleasure, definitely. So there's a lot of activity recently with the Birds. We know how successful the draft was, getting 2 first-round talents, in my opinion, in the first 2 rounds. But there's some interesting pressers this week from our new coordinators, Fangio and Moore. What do you make of the pressers?
Well, first off, it was fun to finally talk to him. That was good. So it's been a little bit since we've been hired. So I was like, these guys exist, but now you saw them during draft, stuff like that. But seriously, when you look at what they've done, this is what they were brought in for. You heard some good things that piqued your interest when you first see them. And I think when you look at especially Fangio, I think that's the biggest need that they had on his team. You look at the way that this season ended last year with offenses carving up. Whenever Drew Lock goes into there and starts carving up your defense, very question. A lot of questions that pop up there. So it's a lot of things. And then Kellen Moore, he comes as advertising. You look at it when he comes as offensive acumen. So overall, you heard some good things. Some things you got a little questions about, but hey, this is what the offseason's for, to rectify those questions and go on from there.
Yeah, so for you, being that you're so close to the team, what are some of your questions then as it relates to those systems they're bringing in?
Well, the first thing for me is I just want to see, because everybody, my colleague EJ Smith over the Inquirer asked me, it was a good question. He beat me too, and I was like, oh man, you got it good. But, but when you look at the way that this defense, everybody and their mom's running, I mean, we've seen variations of the two previous years under with Jonathan Gannon and Sean Desai. So you see that you got used to it. It's like, okay, well, we know what's going to happen. Well, you're going to play your safeties deep, and teams know that, so they start attacking the middle, which was a weak point for the Eagles last year, and we saw what happened there. So I still want to know how you're going to solve that aspect, how you're going to utilize Jordan Davis, because to me, I know we talk a lot about the edge rushers, but to me, he's the key, because he's going to have to take up 2 guys in the middle of that line to set everything else up. How is he going to utilize him so he's effective while also remaining on the field too? So those are the 2 biggest. And then finally, he's going to have a lot to say as well. So we know Howie and Nick are going to on the roster, but they're going to go to Vic in terms of which cornerbacks are going to stay on his roster, which safety's going to stay on his roster. I think pretty much soon we're going to hear Howie call you, me, and everybody else, and they say, hey, you want to play cornerback? Because they got so many on the roster. So we just got to figure out what's going on with that.
Yeah, it's pretty crowded, but it's crowded with a lot of young, hungry talent, in my opinion. The big question for me on the defense, the biggest one I'll say, is how does linebacker shake out? Looking ahead into the future, who are your 3 starters?
Oh, I think your first one, I think Bryce Huff, we got Bryce Huff at the end, and I think you got the inside playing like the strong side as Sam, and seeing that, because he's going to have to drop back into coverage occasionally, which you hold your breath and say, a pass rusher dropping back? Okay.
We've seen that before.
We've seen that.
Look at that one. I think you see Nakobe Dean and Devin White. I think you roll with those guys, and the biggest question mark is you got to make sure that Nakobe Dean stays healthy. Yeah. And I think one thing that we saw last year that contributed to that was he's been off the field for so long, so it takes a while to get into the flow. He's still an athletic guy, and you still see the traits there, but when he's off and he hasn't really played that much, and he's playing next to like 3 or 4 different linebackers, when you saw was guy from Steelers, skips my name right now. You saw him playing with him. You saw Zach Cunningham playing with him. You saw all these different guys playing with him. It wasn't a flow. Now he knows that Devin White's going to be next to him. Yeah. I think it's going to be good, but he just has to stay healthy. That's the big thing.
Huge.
Where does Jeremiah Trotter Jr. fit in on this defense in 2024? Could he be a potential starter? Is he an eventual starter down the line? Is he a special teams contributor right now? What's his path to getting on the field this year?
I think for now, his special teams is going to be the biggest thing, especially when you're looking at also, especially with this new look, kickoff and kickoff coverages and returns. I think that's where he can really start to shine, because it's not like the thing beforehand where you had to really just get ahead of burst of speed and run down the field. He can use that because he's used to being in close quarters, going down and trying to get some tackles. I think he can shine there. But even then, I think you're looking at next year. They may, if he continues to grow, because I'm worried more about his coverage skills as opposed to his run stop. Run stopping, I think, is great. His blitz ability is good, which problem is Fangio doesn't blitz as much, so he's not able to do that as likely on that. But I think next year is a year where you let him grow, you let him get a little bit bigger, you let him grow in the system, get familiar with it, and then you have him compete probably for the will, or unless you see enough in the Kobe Dean, like, you know what, you got to move on from him. But
yeah,
I like some of the tools there. I just worry about the coverage aspect of it.
Interesting.
Always a key.
That is key, especially with this defense. All right, who in your mind at the moment do you see as being the third receiver?
Yeah, like that question.
I think Paris Campbell right now, I think, has the inside track, basically because of his familiarity, his production that he had in Indianapolis beforehand. I think you see a lot of that stuff. Devontae Parker, to me, I think it's a lot. I see him as more as a 4 on there. I think slowly but surely, maybe toward the end of the season, maybe you see a Nine Smith really step in, because I really like his game and what you can do with it. I know people think, oh, he's a gadget guy. You play running back, you play wide receiver. What is he going to do? Well, he's also a productive receiver as well too. So I think over time, I think he becomes in the thing. But I think it's Paris Campbell's job to lose right now. You saw what he last year with the Giants. I think because it was the Giants, and we know how their offense is run and who their quarterbacks are. Daniel Jones, and then you saw DeVito and everything else. So I think the Giants got the most out of him as what they could have. But I think in this system where he's not asked to be the guy, where he's not asked to say, hey, save us because we don't really have any other receivers, I think he could fit in well being that third guy and just opening things up for A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith on the outside.
Yeah, that's the key. Those guys, man.
Yeah.
I mean, what does the defense do? You have so much to be concerned with.
Yeah, I know.
Well, we hope. We hope.
On paper.
We've been here before, going into last year. Brian Johnson, yes, we're going to do this. Oh, no. It's all
I know, man. Yeah, and that I think that's also, sometimes guys can be too close to players. And I think with Johnson and Hurts, maybe that was the key. Too close to be brutally honest with each other.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? I'm curious your take on what the schism was with Johnson.
I think some of it was that he was still trying to get in the flow, and he didn't have the cachet of being offensive coordinator. And I think like you saw Shane Steichen did. Yeah. So I think when it came time, like they saw the offense struggling, I think that's when Nick started jumping, or maybe there's some other talk jumped in from everybody else. So I think that's what played a thing. I still think I wouldn't be surprised, like say when he gets a shot to be an offensive coordinator next time, because he will get one. I think he's still going to be a good one. He just needs to step back and do that, and step back, and he used to be watch what Cliff Kingsbury did, which still sounds weird saying that now he's with the Commanders, but I think that's a good thing for him. See that system, and then from there on out. But I think it's a couple of things. I just think most of all is that he just had to catch in, and he had a short leash, and we saw it pull.
Yeah,
tough ending there.
On the flip side, who's the third cornerback?
Oh, good luck.
It's probably Avante, right?
Because you think it's Avante, and that's why I'm not an odds guy. I'm not great at sport. I'd give him probably say even money on that right now.
Okay.
But then I also look at Isaiah Rodgers, and for me, I think that because you have so many cornerbacks, I look at the fact that right now I believe Tristan McCollum's the fourth safety as of now, and this is with some other things, and I look at that and they're going like, okay, do you maybe move Avante because he has experience playing safety? Move him back and keep him as a backup option as safety. Then you moved and I think you slowly putting in Cooper DeJean. I don't think you move him right away. But Isaiah Rodgers, I know he's played on the outside a lot of times, but when you look at the way he's got the quick feet, he's got the speed. Those are the things you really need in the middle. I think he's got the football IQ as well too, in terms of trying to read these routes coming off the break. So you really need that in terms of a nickel corner. So I can see that happening as well too. Quinion Mitchell, I think he's more outside. I think, and they've said it beforehand too. Howie and Nick said that in their post-draft press conference. They're going to have him focus on the outside to do that. But there are so many options right now that I would love to be a fly in the wall when those 53-man rosters are cut, the cuts happen, and then see how.
Yes.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they trade a player, like a player-for-player trade, especially toward the end of camp, saying like, you know what, they're not going to keep everybody. Ship somebody off, see if you get a conditional 6th or conditional 5th or whatever.
That's got to be Bradbury, right? The writing's got to be on the wall.
It's got to
from
be,
James
man.
Bradbury,
Come on now.
right?
I don't know.
Really?
When you look at because when you look at even when you do the post June, if you trade them or cut them post June 1st, man, this is from over the cap. It's only like you're not. It costs, I believe, if you cut them, you don't. It doesn't cost you anything. But if you trade them, it's like $1.2 million savings. And when you look at a guy who's going back and forth, like you see 2021. You look at his numbers; they're almost comparable to what he did last year. 2022, he's a second-team All-Pro guy.
Yeah,
and you see that thing, like you see that thing. I think he's going to be put in a better position, especially if they use that cover 6 where you got quarter, and halves. He plays better zone coverage than he does man-to-man. I can live with Bradbury doing that in that type of role. It's when you start to say, "Oh, we're going to play a lot of man and press," and it's like, that's not his game. That's more Slay's game as opposed to that. And then if you do a lot of man and press, that's when you start seeing Mitchell. But in this system, they play a lot of off. So I think he's back. I really do think he's back.
Wow.
Very interesting. You know how he likes to do a lot of moving and shaking right before the season starts or even during camp. I think a lot of it is going to hinge on how some of these guys look in the preseason. What do you think about that possibility?
Or
in camp.
Even as early as OTAs, I really think so, especially with June 1st coming up. So some of these guys, like not just corner, but some of these other positions where you're looking, you know what, this guy might be expensive here or there. June 1st come around, it doesn't cost as much to cut him. You save a little money because of the way the books happen. I think that's when we start doing it. So this might be a big OTA that you see somebody going there, because then also you look at the safety part. Justin Simmons is still sitting out there. You still got some decent talent that are sitting out there. So you want to see what you got, at least in the mandatory minicamp of the OTAs. If you feel uneasy about it, you still have a couple piece moves you can make to try to rectify it before the season starts.
Yeah. Now on that note, what did you take away from the initial little mini rookie camp they had?
Well, we were in there for 15 minutes. It literally was like hey, watch them stretch, go through the individual drills, and okay, we'll see you guys later. We'll see you the thing. So, but for one thing, I did when it came to the quickness of both DeJean and Mitchell, it's real. I like the quickness I saw out of that.
Yes.
Now, granted, it's just like read steps and then turn around and then they go. And I like what I saw out of that. I thought it was very interesting. Just got to see Kellen more, like when it comes in terms of communication, because I think that's going to be a big thing, with how we heard the disconnect and everything else, what have you, what said you from all these other sources and reports and everything else. I think it was keen to see what happened there. So I thought that was a big thing as well, too. And even though he hasn't signed a contract and everything else, John Ross is still very, very fast. Like that was see him do the box to the rice drill and then turn around and catch the ball. I was like, geez, and this man was retired. He's still that fast. Like I wish I had that speed. That'd be nice.
I know,
Could
man.
he make the team?
He was a speedster out of college, man.
Yeah, I like him.
Yeah, there's him and Grant, Jakeem Grant. They haven't heard anything. I reached out to the people. I haven't heard anything back from them yet. So it sounds like it's still maybe they're waiting. Maybe they're waiting to use and see that, hey, you sign him as a practice squad guy late and put him as use one of the veteran practice squad, like what have you, if you ever get in trouble. But yeah, it's still no word on that yet.
So staying on the offense, we're going to the most important guy on the field.
Yep.
What do you think we're going to see from Jalen Hurts this year? More so 2022 Jalen or 2023 Jalen?
I think 2022 Jalen, I think we'll see even more passing yards and less rushing yards. I think it's one of those things as well, too. Like, you're not going to see the RPOs and the zone reads, they're not going away because it's what works for this season. You want to utilize his skills with that. But I think when you look at terms of the passing, I think it's going to be schemed up in a way that it lets them go. It's a very quarterback friendly system for what I've heard. And in the pack, because you have a former quarterback doing it, so it kind of helps with that. And there's always an out. The one thing I really want to see him take advantage of is it's okay to take the swing passes out to the running backs.
Exactly, and you got Saquon now.
The fact that there's going to be so much. The fact that Saquon is on that field with Jalen Hurts is going to open up so much, because now instead of having two deep safeties and trying to stop AJ Brown Smith, you got to respect the run with Saquon. So you got to bring somebody down into the box. All of a sudden now you're going to have AJ Brown or Devontae Smith, or dare I say they both are on the same side, one of them in the slot. Good luck trying to stop that, because you're going to have one of them's going to be singled up. So it opens up a lot of things. I think the biggest thing is Hurts has to anticipate where those windows are going to be open, throw it accurately, which we've seen he's improved with his accuracy as well, too. Just his anticipation of finding where those windows are. I think he'll be fine. He'll have a lot more passing yards than we saw in the previous 2 years.
Yeah, because you think about it, unless a team has an elite linebacking core, what are you going to do if you're a defensive coordinator? You have to pick your poison, and then it's up to Jalen, like you said, Chris, to just find the gap and find the space and anticipate, even if he's just a millisecond better with processing. I think that's the difference between...
He has to get better at feeling the blitz coming.
Yeah,
He has to see that better.
Well, now you have Saquon who can actually pick blitzes up.
That's true. That's true.
And we haven't really seen much of that. So, Chris, we're the Vet alumni. We grew up at Veteran Stadium. Our fathers took us there when we were 4, 5, 6 years old. What's your biggest Veteran Stadium memory you have?
See, I never went to a football game. That's the one thing. We just never went to a football game. And also, my dad's a Cowboys fan, but
the truth comes out.
It wasn't because of that though. It was expensive. It was. But we did go to there for baseball.
Same.
Give
us a Phil's memory. That's cool. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it was funny because I just remember. Oh my God!
This is why we asked.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh! I remember going to the. We were going to see the Phillies and sitting there. Oh, I got 2 of them actually.
Okay,
I'll say the first one too. So I went out there. We're sitting there and go to the bathroom. Like, all right, cool, to that one. And of course, there's a long line. I think it's like the second or third inning. It's early in the game. And all of a sudden, I'm sitting there, and this boy goes, I gotta go. And you just hear him rush past us, and the urinals are taken. So, yeah, there's a sink. I'm like, oh, you gotta get. I'm like, I just remember going, what's going on there? Don't look. So,
that was common. That was common at the vet. Yeah.
Peeing in the sink, huh? Wow.
Oh, yeah. That happened a lot there.
And the other one was in college. It was the Vets finally. And Jim told me, sitting up there with a bunch of friends in college, went to UD, and we went up the night. It was sometime in September.
Yeah.
And Jim told me hit a rocket. We were sitting in the 600 level, and Jim told me hit a rocket. I think it was like the right center, and this ball just kept going and going, and it was boom, boom. And we looked over, and that's how bad the Phillies were at the time. They were out of it, and
nobody there.
And just look over, nobody's there, and it was apparently. I think it was like one of the longest home runs in Vet history. I think it was like low 8-9. And obviously, security guy just looks and goes, "Ball like you hear radio like, all right, we'll take it." And just like we're all trying to run over to get it. By the time I was like, "Oh, come on!" Like, nah, but. Yeah, that place was definitely different.
Yeah, man, we appreciate you sharing. We always have to ask when I know it's a Philly guy, and I saw the 215, and I know that they stopped giving out those numbers a long time ago because I got a 215, and it's a thing of the past. We appreciate you joining the Vet Line, Chris, and we're looking forward to another successful bird season. Hopefully, back to a Super Bowl, and we'll talk again soon.
Hey, thanks, guys, for everyone. Thanks for reopening up part of my memory. I try to keep it repressed after that one, so I appreciate it.
Definitely, man. Anytime. That's what we're here for. Chris Franklin, NewJersey.com. Check for his work. We'll catch up with you soon, Chris.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right, that's Chris Franklin, NJ.com. It's time to go around the bases to talk Phils. But first, brought to you by the Fairless Hills Academy of Music, it's time for VetPhact.
This is a VetPhact.
Well, Tek, May 11th, 1997, towards the end of Veteran Stadium life here in South Philadelphia, 21,282 fans came to the Vet, which is like a third of the stadium.
Yeah.
Came to the Vet for a 138 first pitch. The visiting Colorado Rockies, they came in and only scored 1 run against Curt Schilling, who went 9 innings, complete game.
Curt Schilling.
Only allowed 4 hits, struck out 12 Rockies. This was a low-scoring game. The Phils won 3-1. 2 RBIs from Greg Jeffries, 1 RBI from Scott Rowland. Only 3 Phils position players had hits on the day. A very quiet day, but Curt Schilling had a hit as well.
Wow, back when the pitchers could bat.
Back when the pitchers could bat. The Phils got the big double from Jeffries in a 1-1 game in the bottom of the 7th. No doubt, sending those 21,000 fans into a frenzy as the Phils would win and climb to 13-22 in one of those forgotten years in Phils history.
Oh, yeah.
4 years after they went to the World Series and lost in heartbreaking fashion to Joe Carter and the Blue Jays. Rico Bronya was on this team. Dutch Dalton.
Wow.
Unfortunately, Dalton was hitless on the day, but he was hitting 325, Dutch, at this point in the season. Scott Rowland was hitting 297. Again, he had a ribby. Morandini did walk twice, and you could say that those probably kept some innings going.
Yeah.
We love Mickey Morandini. Kevin Stocker, also.
I love Stocker, yeah.
Love Stock,
I
also
love him
on the squad. The Phils, again, a quiet day at the plate, but they would get the win. Curt Schilling, the complete game. May 11th, 1997, 3-1. Phils over the young Rockies, only 4 years in the league at this point.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
An expansion team.
Yes. They came in the same time as the Marlins.
They did. They did. Very, very interesting time in baseball history.
Yeah.
Real quick, names you would know on this team: Larry Walker.
Yes.
Andre Scalaraga.
Yes.
Vinny Castilla.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, some really good players.
Oh, yeah.
You also had Quentin McCracken. We'll leave it at that. There's your Vet Fact, May 11th, 1997.
Yeah, you know what time it is.
We're talking about the Fightins here. The Fightins.
The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
It's time to go around the bases on the Vet Alumni Podcast.
Oh my God.
Deep to right field. Way up there and way out of here.
Around the Bases is back.
Man, I am so excited about this team, Tek.
Yeah, the Phils, they win again last night against the Marlins in Miami. This is the best start of a season since the 93 Phils in the Vet days.
And you know what? It's only maybe the third or fourth time in franchise history since 1883 that they've started this good through X amount of games.
Ranger Danger remains outstanding, the best pitcher in baseball.
I took that Cy Young prop when it was plus like 2,300 for him.
Wow.
Now it's down to plus 14 because of his performance.
Might get a Golden Glove too, on top of it.
He sure should. I mean, the guy is as cool as the other side of the pillow.
He's my favorite. He's my favorite.
Me too.
He was the one going into the season when we had our season preview with Tim Kelly. He's the one I had circled. I said, Ranger, if this guy can come in and start a season healthy.
Wow.
This is what we got.
When he's on the mound, it almost is taking on a Cliff Lee feeling. When Cliff Lee would take the mound, the Phils are winning that game. The 2009 World Series, they only won the Cliff Lee starts. It has that same feel with Ranger. He feels like Cliff Lee. Remember Cliff Lee, when he would field balls, he would kind of be a little cocky with it too?
Yeah.
Ranger has the same thing. They're completely different pitchers, obviously, in what they do. But Ranger...
I get that feeling from Wheeler, too.
Yeah, for sure. But that's more like a Roy feeling.
Yeah,
you got to go lefty-righty here. But, the bottom line is this unit, as a starting unit, is the best in baseball.
But I don't have that feeling with Nola, by the way.
Well, with Nola, I know people, he's the favorite target of Phillies fans.
I've never been a Nola guy. This is nothing new for me.
But in spite of that, he still is one of the most consistent arms in baseball the last 7 years. And as much as when he goes bad for him, I feel like it's more focused on than for other guys. Because it's Nola.
Well,
I feel like it's a weird stigma attached to him.
I get it, but I think that's just because it happens every year at some point. He's had a couple really strong years all the way through with very few nonsensical starts where
True.
Last few years.
Well, the home runs are down this year. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
His home run pace is back more normal. And, when we went to the game on Jackie Robinson Day, you're talking about a lights-out performance.
True. That's true. Not gonna hold it against him when he has great starts, but I do tend to hold it against him when he has bad starts.
The question is going to be, how does he look against the Braves and the Dodgers? That's the only thing fans should be concerned about at this point with this team. Luckily, we're past, the Phillies going to make it to October. I sure hope they do. No. The question now is, when they're playing in October, possibly as an NL East champion, can they
let's cross our fingers. I'm not 100% sure.
I hear you, but the Braves are not what everyone thinks they are.
Well, they lost their top pitcher.
That's part of it.
And they seem to still keep on plugging along.
Yeah, but they have a game not long ago where they're up 5-1 against the Marlins. They blow the lead. They're down 7-5. They come back to win that game, but what that tells me is against a better team, they lose that game. The Braves of the past few years, that doesn't happen to them.
I get it. Phillies, it's amazing. I know it's early. They have the highest winning percentage in Major League Baseball.
And talk about the Johan Rojas supporters being vindicated. This kid is every bit of a major league player. He's every bit of a major leaguer.
I spent days, even in the last 30 days, when Marsh wasn't in the lineup and you had both Rojas and Pache out there, I'd be going, what the hell's going on? I love it.
Pache with a major league at bat yesterday.
Yeah.
From 0-2 to 3-2 and then an RBI double.
Absolutely.
I mean, wow, man. From your 8-9
and what a great at bat that was.
It really was.
A great at bat.
It showed patience, and Kevin Long is working with these guys.
He has not taken those kind of pitches in the past. It was almost like he knew what was coming.
Yeah.
in that at bat.
Yeah, the kid is getting better. These are young, hungry ball players. When you're young, hungry, and you have the physical talent and the physical tools, you're gonna improve. It's just the nature of playing the sport your entire life.
The only slight weakness on this team is the bullpen. They're definitely
Agreed.
a man short.
They are.
And I don't fully trust Soto either. He came in after an outstanding Ranger start and immediately gives up 2 runs.
I'll tell you who I want. I want that kid, Jelly from
He doesn't
San
look
Francisco.
he doesn't look like Kevin Gross out there.
I want that guy. I would like the Phils. He's 6'11". He's like Randy Johnson.
I know
size.
he is.
Shout out to Gary Sheffield Jr., Randy Johnson. So
Yeah.
anyhow, the kid is he's not a kid. He's a grown man.
Yeah, I'm
he's a
telling you.
monster. He shut us down.
He looked unbelievable.
That's a guy
I was upset. I'm like, who's this guy?
The Giants will be out of it by July. We took their heart. After that they can't beat the Rockies. That's a guy that will be available. But they might go after an American League or two. There's some teams in the American League with good arms that are not going to contend. I know that Dombrowski is going to do something to make this team an undeniable.
Well, he's got to.
Squad.
I hinted at it a couple weeks ago. He made a mistake in the offseason. He couldn't go after a top reliever because guys like Reynaldo Lopez, who the Braves made a starter because Strider got hurt, he's making $10 million.
Good pitcher.
Nick Martinez with the Reds makes $14 million. Josh Hader makes $14 million. Your best reliever, Alvarado, on this team is making $7 million.
What a great move to get him from the Rays that has turned out to be.
Right. But Dombrowski couldn't bring in a reliever that would make more than his top bullpen on.
Well, you can't because that's going to create a little bit of chemistry concerns maybe, but maybe not. The leadership is so good on this team in this locker room, and the young guys are now kind of coming into their own more. Like we just talked about, that I don't know that would be an issue. I think
I would have figured out
these guys
are
professionals.
To up Alvarado's salary and sign another arm.
He's a $10 million man.
Yeah, because I look at, Turnbull heading into the pen solves a big need, the long reliever need.
It does.
Who you were constantly going to Marte or Strom, and
I know.
and Marte's been great this year
Strom
until he got hurt.
Strom I love.
And Strom's always good to give up a run or two. And,
Sometimes.
And I like Strom a lot, and I've liked him since last year. I'm all for Strom.
You just got to get rid of that Blue Jays
But
glove.
I need another guy, and Turnbull could be that guy. That's the long man who comes in, and I really
a long man you trust.
I trust him.
Yeah,
I
you don't
absolutely
trust like
him.
a Nick Nelson, for example.
No, I don't trust Nick. Forget about Nick Nelson.
They got this guy Ruiz that they just brought up to fill the space. I know. You just don't know what you're going to get. They're minor league arms, Nelson and Ruiz.
I know. For some reason, they just never get rid of Dominguez.
It's like he's got blackmail in
I'm
the front
telling you,
office.
I don't know what he's got on the front office. No matter how many games he loses you, they'll never do it. And it's rare that a reliever like Kimbrel in the playoffs last year, yeah, he lost them the game. But I blame the manager. I blame Thompson just as much for going to him when he should have seen it coming.
I agree, man.
And this year, I blame him less. I look at it like, hey, if you just keep giving him Dominguez, he's going to keep going.
He's gonna have no choice because that's the bullets he has in the gun.
Yeah, and he goes to Soto too. Like when he went
Soto, I'm losing faith, man.
When he went to Soto, for instance, last night, as soon as we went to him, I said, Soto's going to come in and give up runs.
But he shouldn't have. Pache should have caught that ball.
I get that.
And
that
should
you're
have
right.
been an error. That's a shame for Soto because that goes to his ERA. Those 2 runs.
Yeah.
That was an error. I mean, the glove's there, the ball's there.
Yes.
A typical left fielder makes that catch. Marsh makes that catch. Schwarber makes that catch.
Yeah, that was.
Okay, maybe that's overboard.
Yeah, I all right. That was
I hear you.
bad.
Point is,
that was bad.
Soto's not an all-star.
But he was getting hit hard.
They signed an all-star when they signed Soto. He's not an all-star.
No,
now.
he is not. No, he is not. And I don't know that he really was last year either. But
no, I mean when he was with the Tigers or whatever, because the Tigers had no other good players. You have to have one representative.
We traded for him too.
We did.
We traded for him. So look, I don't know what they're going to do there. They got to do something. But in the meantime, it's a minor gripe. I mean,
It is. Hey, we're very blessed right now to have a unit as a pitching staff as a whole that really is probably, as a whole, a top 5 unit in all of baseball.
And it's really what's getting them by. Even in some of these starts, like Wheeler had 2 starts in particular that weren't great
Iffy.
starts.
But he doesn't give up runs, though. He just has a high pitch count.
Right. His last start was a terrible Wheeler start,
One
and
run.
it was still 1 run.
That shows you. That's the whole Halladay effect thing that we talked about.
Yeah.
Those pitchers like that of the Halladay and Wheeler ilk, they just have a way of getting out of jams.
We mentioned that, well, they're not going to go to the 6-man rotation because that would screw up your top guys at the top of the rotation and their rest and the way their arm is bouncing back, and they have a certain routine, and it'll mess up the routine.
Right.
But what do? They go to the 6-man rotation, just like we said they wouldn't. They did.
Well, briefly.
And then right. But it was enough to mess up Wheeler's routine to where Wheeler, right after the game, they asked him, was the day of rest? He said, yeah. I mean, look, it messed with my routine. It messed with my
he did say
routine,
that.
and I couldn't get sharp. I couldn't get my command going. I couldn't find what it is that gets my groove going. I couldn't get into it because it threw me off.
It's a personal science with these guys.
It is.
And it really
that
holds a lot of weight.
1 day is a big deal.
It holds a lot of weight because that's one more day for your arm to be stagnant.
Right. And I know that the natural thought process is, well, what do you mean? What's the big deal? I mean, what if it rains?
Oh, rest is
and he
good. Rest
skips
is good.
the day?
It's psychological.
Yeah, it's like, well, look, there wasn't rain, and this was a thing where he was in his groove, and he had a bad start, the previous start, so he was trying to snap into it, and that extra day, it kind of messed with that even further. He just couldn't find what he usually has.
Yeah.
And
I'll tell you
look,
what,
only
though.
1 run.
Sanchez really picked it up in his last start. Looked pretty good.
Yeah. Look, there was some. Yeah, Sanchez had a good start. Ranger's been outstanding every start.
Wow.
But there's been some funky Wheeler starts. There's been a couple, really 2 in a row, bad Nola starts.
So only 3 runs, though.
And right, so
It's the same kind of
what
thing
I'm
with
getting
Nola.
at
Only
is,
3 runs.
even in these games, these are also games where the Phillies have 0 offense,
I know.
and they win the game.
Yeah, because they get that 1 inning they need.
I mean,
They get that one, even if it's the first inning.
things.
And they outscore teams, by the way. Sorry to interject here. They outscore teams in the first 2 innings, like 67-21 this year. So something
Wow.
like that. McCarthy said it on the air
Wow.
last night.
Yeah, I think I actually heard.
Yeah,
something.
I mean, that just shows you that is unlike any Phillies team we can remember in recent memory since 2008 through 11.
Yeah. I don't want to get ahead of myself by thinking this
It's okay
team
to get a little
is,
ahead.
is
Get
like
a little
the
ahead.
beloved 93 Phils or...
No, but the difference is that team wasn't expected to do this. This team is expected to do this.
This team is more like 2011 or 2009. This is more like those teams. But I look at it like it's early. I don't want to start thinking not only are they going to win the division, but this is a World Series team. I know when I'm watching that it looks like that.
You guys have different energy feeling when you watch this team. It's not like waiting for it to go wrong. It's more like, well, when they lose, who cares? Because they're going to win 7 out of 10.
Right. But the only time they're out of it is when it's like 6-1. As soon as it goes 6-1, I'm like, they're done.
Which has only happened maybe 2-3 times.
Yeah, it's
all
only
year.
happened a few times this year. It really...
and when you take the first series against first 2 series from Atlanta and Cincy away when they were 3-3 through those first 6 games.
Yeah.
This team is like 24-9.
It's unbelievable.
Since then.
Yeah, I know.
And some of the losses were close.
Yeah, they were.
In those 9. I mean, it's just remarkable to me.
And a handful of those, they did fight back at the end and just couldn't,
They can win baseball games
done.
with their B and C lineup out here with this pitching.
They've done it. They've done it. I've watched
last night.
They've done it, and not just last night. They've done it multiple times where Thompson, you can get the sense that Thompson in the beginning might have viewed it, not like us. We view it as a B and C lineup. He might have viewed it as like, okay, let me go to my secondary guys. But now I don't think he sees it like that. Now he sees it like, let me give him a rest and let me get Pache some work. He's looking at it like...
Well, Rogers is tough on lefties.
Yeah, and that's the similarity to the 93 team that I see, especially in the outfield. In the outfield, the 93 team,
I know.
You had like 6 guys.
Eisenreich, Inky.
Yeah, and Wes Chamberlain.
Wow. Milt Thompson.
Yeah, you had guys.
You did.
And even
Same thing,
Lenny Dykstra could get days off. They put Ricky Jordan out there.
Ricky Jordan could play first base as well.
Yeah. So they had options in the outfield, and they have outfield options now. I mean, they got Casty. Schwarber can play there if they need him to. They got Pache. They got Merrifield. They got Marsh.
And
they
Witt's
got
turned
Rojas.
it on. Yeah, Witt has turned it on a bit.
Yeah, I mean,
So is Casty. You know, Casty, by the way,
Yeah.
a little insight on that home run last night. I heard through his brother's Twitter, I believe their family dog passed away. So
yes, that was for
condolences
him.
to the Castellanos family. I mean, that's beautiful.
That's my problem with Castellanos, by the way.
He needs an extra thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
he needs incentive. He needs extra
Is
motivation.
$20 million not enough?
Right. I always hear like, oh, you don't need extra motivation if you're an athlete. Athletes say this all the time. Did you need any extra? They act like the media is like stupid. They go, did you need any extra motivation? Oh, I never need. I'm an athlete. I don't ever need.
Right. Of course you do.
He does. He does a lot. He needs like this extra thing
But hey,
going
maybe
on.
he's turned on in terms of turning the juice back on. I don't mean that kind of juice.
No.
The mental juice
Yeah.
to not swing at sliders 17 feet off the plate.
Yeah, because it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And
Every
he still
day,
does.
you know he's swinging at pitches that me or you could identify to take.
Yeah, he still does it.
He does.
He still does.
I feel like he turned a corner. You know, Casty definitely turned a corner, and like
A
we
little
mentioned, Rojas with his second bomb of the year,
I love that.
and that was a pure swing. Kevin Long and Trey Turner's working with Johan too.
Yeah, because Rojas' swing has gotten 1,000 times
This
better.
kid is going to continue to get better, and he will make an All-Star game.
Yeah, listen.
Not this year, but he will be an All-Star in his
And
career.
he might be a Gold Glover in his career too.
Well,
because
that should be shoot in. Or
yeah,
penciled
because
in.
his center fielding is
He had the one
unbelievable
weird
to
game.
watch.
He had the one weird game where he kind of
One
misjudged.
weird
But
game.
you know what?
Everybody's
Guys
got
are going to
one.
have an odd day sometimes, man. These are human beings still. You know, these guys aren't going to be infallible.
I keep going back to '93, but like sometimes Rojas will make a play that like only Dykstra could have made.
Exactly.
Because Dykstra was like the best in my life.
Andrew Jones probably.
Andrew Jones, but I'm talking about as a Philly.
Yeah.
The best Philly center fielder.
No question. Fearless.
Fearless.
Fear isn't even in Nail's vocabulary.
Right.
Even to this day.
I know. I mean, he's a little out of his mind now.
I love it,
but-
though. I love interacting with him on Twitter because he hits us back.
Yeah, he does. Even
He
though
won't
it's-
come on.
No,
He
he'll
said-
never come on.
I asked him. He said straight up, no,
No,
period.
He'll never come on.
He's a Met at heart. That's why.
And this is the thing, right? Even though I think he's a jerk, a complete, and to be honest, kind of a moron. But I will never really talk bad about Lenny
No,
Dykstra.
you can't
I
because
love
of what
him
he
too
was.
much.
When we were kids, what he was the quintessential center fielder outside of Ricky Henderson
the guy's
in that era.
The guy's an asshole. He's an idiot, but I love him. Okay,
Yeah,
I love
actually,
the guy.
some of the times, surprisingly enough, you probably aren't surprised to hear me say this. I agree with him sometimes, but hey, that's me.
Every now and then, even though he hates the vet, he has no good memories of the vet. He doesn't want to talk about the vet
He
at
doesn't.
all.
He sees Vet Alumni. He probably just shakes his head, but he does reply at least.
We are waiting for a '93 Phil
Oh, a big one
from
too.
that year
Yeah.
to come on the show.
Expressed interest. Expressed interest.
Oh yeah, but really any Phil from '93. It's that year in particular. I don't want to talk to Randy Reddy or Dickie Thon. I
No.
want to talk to one of the '93 Phils, and just pick their brain
Integral parts of that
about the
team.
vet. Yes,
Yeah.
I.
Yeah. We'll get there. We'll get there. It's
I
coming.
just, guys like Wes Chamberlain, he reached back, he replied to me, but he didn't reply on the second email.
Always the same deal with the gentleman in question, who I don't want to name because I don't want to jinx it. The gentleman in question we reached out to, I think it will happen, Tek, and it will happen this season.
You think so?
I think so.
All right, because I was when Wes Chamberlain replied to me, I was like, oh my God. Then I sent a follow-up, nothing. I was hoping on that follow-up I'd get him, we want to talk about the vet, nothing. It's like these guys don't want to talk about the vet.
It's very intriguing to me.
It is. It's
very
intriguing. It's like the the worst kept secret or something. I don't know what's going on.
Actual vet alumnus. We might get a Birds vet alumnus this coming Eagles season, by the way, too.
That would be tremendous too.
Working on it.
That would be tremendous too. So look, the Phils. they're doing what they're doing, and they play another game tonight. It's stupid to even talk about it because it'll probably be, by the time anyone's even listening to this, they'll have played the game, and
maybe not
we're
all the
a game
way.
behind.
We're gonna be dropping during the game. I mean, here we are on Saturday afternoon, 12:55 p.m. Eastern time, and the Marlins Tech have still not announced the starter because that's their only strategic ploy.
Right, and by the time everyone is hearing this, they'll be mid-game, and you'll know who the starter is.
And it's still going to be a Phillies W as long as Walker doesn't succumb to his history against Chisholm, De La Cruz, and Bell, who all have all-star numbers against him.
And as long as the offense doesn't go dry, which they've gone dry so much this season, and they still win. They've overcome no offense. Sometimes,
well, because they win with small ball sometimes.
Like they'll do right, which is a little different this year.
It is.
I know. The King
still fifth in the bigs in home runs.
The King, Howard Eskin, his biggest gripe with the Phillies is they only win when they hit home runs, and that hasn't been the case.
No.
The entire season.
No,
they've
won
far
by manufacturing runs. I mean, there's some innings where you got single, double, single,
They have
single,
done
walk,
that.
single.
They have done it.
I mean, hey,
they've
I'm fine
also
with
had, and this is also some crazy. It reminds me of the 2017 Eagles, where the Eagles would win some games because of some penalties that would never. Flag would never go their way, and it went their way in multiple games in 17, where like the Phillies, they've had some weird, wild pitches go their way to give them
both ways,
extra
though.
runs.
The umpires, back to what we talked about a few weeks ago.
Oh, the umps are the
got to
worst.
go to the robo umpires, man. It's so egregious.
I agree.
And it affects so many aspects of a baseball game in the moment. It can't be understated.
It can't.
2-1 to 1-2. It changes everything. And
it does.
And quite frankly, Tech, I'm sick of it.
I'm sick of it too. It's a joke.
It's
a joke.
Big time.
All right, it's time for Prem's picks in 30 seconds. Need a better betting app? You need Rhythm.
Rhythm makes it easy to find AI-backed picks and player props for every single NFL, NBA, and game. You can build custom sports betting models or have AI build them for you and start getting recommended bets, score predictions, and more that will help you become a better bettor. Download Rhythm now and start getting free picks daily. Rhythm is the place for data-backed props and picks. RITHMM.
Rhythm is a proud partner of the Vet Alumni Podcast. Have a gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. It's time for Prem's Picks.
These games are a blowout, a human lock. You can bet your children's unborn children on these games.
Prem's picks. Where we at?
We're back. We're sitting at 3-3.
Okay.
Through 3 pick weeks.
Good.
And it's kind of a win and lose, up and down.
Well,
so far.
that's.
But I got 3 more picks for you today. But first, we're gonna give you the Bet Rhythm pick of the week.
Here we go.
We're going to Dallas, where the Thunder and the Mavericks will face off, and you have a high chance of hitting this over. Josh Giddey, over 3.5 rebounds, is given a 68% likelihood of hitting. 3 of the last 5 games, he's over 5 rebounds. And even in the one where he missed 3.5, it was 3.
Yeah.
You put that prop in, parlay it, it's going to hit. Josh Giddey, over 3.5 boards. Thunder at Mavericks. Rhythm. Bet Rhythm pick of the week.
There it is.
On to the Diamond Tech.
We got to get the locks in.
Gotta
Here
get
we
the
go.
locks in. First, I'm going straight to Boston, where the 19-18 Nationals take on the 19-19 Boston Red Sox. And you can comfortably take the Red Sox to win the game. They lost yesterday in a 5-1 game. It was a snoozer where the Nationals just outpitched them. But today, you got one Cooper Criswell going at Fenway for the Red Sox. 1.74 ERA, 1.06 whip against Jake Irvin, who's been ho-hum. Not terrible, though, 3.72 ERA. I like the Red Sox to win on a Saturday afternoon at Fenway. No doubt a packed crowd as usual. Lock. Next, Tech, we're going to go down to Colorado, where the world champion Rangers are playing the Rockies. you know who's going to win this game, in my opinion. So I'm not going win-loss here. You got Ryan Feltner going for Colorado, 5.54 ERA.
Yeah.
Colorado, the ball flies out there. I'm going over 10 runs. I like Texas to maybe even score 10 themselves today. They've been up and down this year as the world champs, but I think today's a day where in Colorado you're going to see the ball flying around the yard. I can see the Rangers winning this one 10-4, 10-5. Over Texas at Colorado, lock. Lastly, Tech, one of the head scratchers in baseball this year has been the massive step back that the Houston Astros have taken with a record of 14-24 through 38 games. They're visiting the Tigers today, who are 19-19, have been really, as the record indicates, an average ball club.
It's a long season. They started out slow last year, too. Houston.
That's true. They did. And they'll probably still end up in the postseason, knowing how this team is built. You got Christian Javier going today with his 1.54 ERA.
Right.
But against Detroit's best starter, Tariq Skubal, who has a 4-0 record with a 1.90. Nevertheless, I think that Houston finds a way to win this one, to get back into that winning feeling. They've been losing a lot more recently than they have in recent time, and the Yankees just owned them this past week. Take Houston. I would stay away from the run line, but take the Houston money line. Detroit is a favorite in this game, so you're going to get good odds. Houston to win in Detroit, lock. To recap, Tech, we have the Red Sox dismissing the Nationals at Fenway.
Lock.
The over 10 runs, Texas at Colorado.
Lock.
And the Astros money line in Detroit.
Lock.
This has been Prem's MLB Picks.
We will see you next week.
Vet Alumni.